Good morning, class. This is what a second grade classroom looks like in Uganda. My guess is it doesn't look anything like the classroom that you had in second grade. I know it certainly doesn't look like mine. But if you can believe it, some kids in Uganda would look at this and be jealous because they have absolutely no classroom to call their own. The statistics that you see tell the story of a crisis that is of epic proportion. Can you imagine a city of kids the size of San Jose that woke up this morning without a chance to go to school? Can you imagine 1,350 communities that have no school at all? And could you imagine that 80% of the teachers who entered the Ugandan workforce last year couldn't even read this slide? Can you imagine if 7 out of 10 of all of us in this room never made it past 7th grade? Now guess what? You don't have to imagine that if you live in Uganda, because that is what your reality is. And that's the reality that we at Building Tomorrow have been working to confront over the last 10 years. Now, many of you might have come up with the idea very quickly sitting in your seats that we came up with 10 years ago to start taking communities that looked like this and make them look like this instead. This is Butiti, one of 60 Building Tomorrow academies that we've built over the last 10 years. In each community in which we work, communities give us 15,000 hours of labor and provide up to 3 acres of land on which we construct each one of our schools. We work in partnership with the Ministry of Education, with whom we have a memorandum of understanding that allows us to place teachers in classrooms in perpetuity, with the government picking up the tab. This innovative form of public-private partnership is one of the first of its kind in East Africa. To date, there are over 9,000 children who are learning inside of a Building Tomorrow classroom. But after 5 years, we took a step back. We wanted to realize, what are we doing right, and where can we grow? Student enrollment was increasing, attendance was rising. There were some really awesome things that were happening in our schools. But when we took the veil off and we tried to really dig deep to understand what was going on, we saw some really incredible things. Communities were making lunches for their students. Communities came together to build housing for their teachers. There was an aura, there was a sense of excitement amongst community members to come together and support the work that they were doing. We realized that one of, if not the most important strength of Building Tomorrow was galvanizing communities through an investment in education. And what we were seeing was this was mushrooming and beginning to take hold in a number of different ways well after the school was built. So in 2015, we launched the Building Tomorrow Fellows Program, our attempt to take this galvanization by community members and spread it and grow our impact quite considerably. This is Ruth, one of 50 of our fellows who we've deployed to 200 schools throughout Uganda. All of our Building Tomorrow fellows are Ugandan college graduates who we send into the field to help make sure that we do our best to improve teacher quality, to invest in the leadership of teachers, and again to galvanize communities in support of the schools in their community. Ruth, upon stepping into one of her first schools, realized that after 4th grade there were no girls attending class. She went back to the mothers of the community and tried to understand why exactly that was. And over the course of conversation, she learned that it was because mothers felt that there was no point in sending their girls to school. They were more profitable if they stayed at home. After 6 weeks, using herself as an example, and quite possibly marking the first time that the community had had a chance to interact in such an in-depth way with a college-educated female, enrollment of the school boosted by 30% when all of a sudden there were girls in seats in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. At Building Tomorrow to date, we've impacted 54,525 students, 17,600 of these enrolling or re-enrolling in school for the first time. It's an impressive number and we're quite proud of it, but we know that there's far more work to be done. We're in the middle of a 5-year project that has us reaching 192,000 students throughout Uganda. We've already raised $12.5 million of that and need $1.4 million in grant funding over the next 2.5 years. I'd like to think of this as chapter 1 of our impact story. Our sights are actually set a lot higher, with the opportunity to potentially work with the Ministry of Education on nationalizing the Building Tomorrow Fellows program and getting more and more kids in school. We have the opportunity not only to do the work that I've just described, but to reach 317,000 students through launching an innovative form of finance with Citibank that would provide us with $5.9 million in working capital. We're excited by this, and we know that we need to reach greater scale and greater impact to really make a significant dent in the problem that exists in Uganda. Building Tomorrow has been supported by a number of awesome people, both internally and externally. A lot of our funders and supporters are not listed on this page, but some of the ones that you might most be familiar with include Echoing Green, Educate a Child, and the Clinton Global Initiative. Building Tomorrow believes that every child should have access to a quality education, and we won't stop until we get there. Whether it's chapter 1 or chapter 2, we invite you to get involved with the work of Building Tomorrow, and thank you very much for your attention.